come on with questions at some point. Okay, so you guys, I wanted to introduce my wonderful teacher, Reese San Agustin Turner. I don't know if you want me to use that newly added last name because she got married recently. She's an intuitive development coach, channel for a myriad of otherworldly beings, and a pioneer in connecting people to the power of sacred geometry. Reese has a corporate background and a client list that includes managers and executives from some very important companies. Why this is so important to me is because we need heart-based businesses and intuitive people running our companies. And I know Reese is helping create a better corporate world through her work with clients. So I am so thrilled about that. And I would like, Reese, I'd like you to kind of talk about what you do and how you got into this business.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I run a company that is tailored towards helping people find their own divine spark and to essentially find the pathways that help them gift to the world what they intended to gift. And I will say that I was a reluctant intuitive, reluctant channel, having spent most of my career in corporate. I found myself being offered a position that was outside of what I had committed myself to. So I was in HR management, and I found myself in a company that I said, you guys are gonna need to hire somebody for that executive job, or you will be the board that turns the lights out, because it was in dire straits. They came back to me and asked me to take that role, which was really outside of my comfort zone. It was not anything I thought I wanted to do, totally resistant. I went into meditation with my guides, and my guides said, you should say yes. This organization is worthy of saving. We will show you how to turn it around. And this was in 2004. And they said, and in September of 2011, you will leave here and do what you came into the world to do. So you don't have to worry, because you're not going to go back to HR. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So I said yes. I did turn around with that company. It was amazing. I had a wonderful board that I thought, you know, I would just stay with, and I'd retire there. And then one day in 2010, I had a board that I did not love. And I felt very misaligned with them. And so I decided, because they were the board and I was one person, that since something needed to change, it should be me leaving. So I gave my notice. So this is 7 years later, forgetting all about that conversation with my guides. And the board came back. So this was September of 2010. The board came back and asked me to stay until September of 2011, which then, you know, rang all the bells. And I was like, oh, where is that journal from 2004? What did I say? What did the guide say? And so I just surrendered to the fact that, great, I'm gonna leave here. I'll do what I came into the world to do. I have no idea what that is. So I actually struggled for quite some time trying to determine, like, what is the thing? And my guides, I would come with ideas and my guides would show me lemons. And then finally they suggested that I just surrender to the truth of who I came here to be. And they asked me to sit with, if I could do anything, not thinking about having to support my children, what would it be? And I essentially said that I would love to sit in front of people with them, having conversations that help them see the truth of who they are and give them actionable steps to get there. And I was like, but I just want to sit on my couch. I can't do that. I don't even know, you know. And they said, well, you can do that because you're a psychic. And I was just like, I don't want to be a psychic. So again, resisted every step of the way. When I finally surrendered, I became a psychic. my guides immediately suggested that I start teaching intuitive development. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I was resistant there as well. And I was just like, I don't have a syllabus. I don't know what that would even look like. And they said, just call it spirit-led. Put it on your website. We'll bring people to you. And that's how I started teaching. And every step of the way, they gave me a new thing to teach. Up until a few years ago, every step of the way, I resisted the thing. And a few years ago was when they first brought me the harmonic series that I teach. So I teach a series that is based on creating a frequency through essentially wavelengths, through the language, through imagery, through a journey process. And again, I was like, nobody will know what that even means. How will I get people? And they said, just trust it, people will come. And that's how it started. That was the first class that I kind of was just like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Whereas all of the classes beforehand, I resisted, did it reluctantly, but love it. I mean, once I say yes to something, I usually embrace it fully and I love it. But I have found the harmonic series to be so beautiful because it allows people to find their own truth. It's not dictated material. These are pathways of remembrance. So that's how I got into this place of working with the geometries. It is a true joy. I believe it's important for people to be able to access their own inner spark, to have pathways that allow them to remember beyond the 3D. And I believe that that's what these do.
Now, I think was I in one of your first harmonics classes?
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember asking you what it was we were going to do, and you were like, well, I'm not really sure. But I think they're telling me you should go. And so I went not really knowing what it was going to be about too, just figuring, of course, this is what I need to do.
Right. Yes. I was just like, should I change the name? And I even had some advisors suggest that I change the name. And every time I go back to the non-physical teachers, they insist that they've named the course exactly as it's supposed to be named. And so the first of the series is Harmonic Integration of Higher Self, and it offers up geometries that help you really look at your own pre-incarnation plan and allow you to connect in. Working with the geometries is so beautiful because they hold a space. Each geometry emits a frequency, and when we allow ourselves to be in harmonic resonance with that frequency, we can access all that is contained from that foundational source. So if we think about sacred geometry as the foundation for which everything in the multiverse is built, and we allow ourselves to set the intention to get in tune with specific frequencies of these geometries, it allows us to open the container, to be one with it, to merge with our own higher self's knowing. So if you really live by the knowing that each of us is an aspect of source, then of course we have access to all that is available to us, which is all that is. Mm-hmm. And one of the best pathways I've found is through the geometries, because they create a harmonic resonance between that space that is between ourselves, the energetic space, and the rest of the universe. So it's like riding frequency or riding waves, dialing in, getting on the right channel, and allowing ourselves to receive.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, you mentioned pre-incarnation plan, and I feel like everybody should know this, but I don't think most people do. So would you talk for a minute about what that means?
Sure. So when we are, as souls, preparing to come into a life, we essentially create a strategic plan, a roadmap, setting goals around what we are coming here to do, whether that is for our own soul's evolution, to create balance, to have a contrary experience, because perhaps we had an experience from one perspective, and that notion of connecting into the oneness calls for us to have a contrary experience. So there's that. Many people serve on councils of light. So many people who would be attracted to this particular webcast are highly likely to be here in a way as benevolent gifters or volunteers to come into a challenging timeline, anchoring in gifts that can help pivot us as a collective consciousness towards unity. And so we create these plans, essentially, looking at, what do we want to experience for our own joy? What do we want to experience from the gift of our soul? What might we have agreed to in relation to others? So this could be councils of light. It could be individual souls that we are part of a soul family with. Many things we may have agreements about. So we create this plan. We often forget what it's like to be in the physical density. So some of us are overachievers and give ourselves lots of things. And then we sit and think about the reality of going into the 3D. And most of us will then invite those who are remaining in non-physical or higher consciousness, so ascended masters, angels, elemental beings, to serve as guides or spiritual allies to help us realize that plan that we've created.
So they're with us from the start, like they are part of our pre-incarnation plan?
Right, so based on what I've seen, we send out an invitation, and if that being feels in right alignment with that, they say yes. And so whether they are there the entire life or for the parts that are specific to their specialty is really based on that pre-incarnation plan. So sometimes you may have a guide or an ally in the non-physical who is just with you for a chapter or with you for a particular aspect of your roadmap or a relationship.
So when it sounded like you've been working with your guides for like when did you know knew that you had them?
So I was in kindergarten when I realized that other people did not see the world the way I saw it. I saw auras, and I was reprimanded for coloring a person purple in kindergarten because people are not purple, apparently. And I was like, what? Like, I see purple, I see all these different colors. And so that was my first indication that I was perhaps experiencing the world through a different lens. And then when my family moved to Washington from California, my grandmother, who I lived just blocks from in California, began visiting me in astral time. And initially I thought I was just dreaming her, like, oh, Grandma, I'm dreaming about you again. And she at one point said, we are not dreaming. I am truly with you. And tomorrow and every other time that we visit, I'm going to call your mother. And we're going to talk about things that you and I have already talked about so that you know and remember. And so that was my first experience really being aware of like moving into a different space. And guides started showing up shortly thereafter. So for me, it's a lifelong thing.
Yeah, I don't know, I probably noticed it when I started taking shamanic classes, 10 or so years ago. And I remember bringing in like a saber-toothed tiger. That was my totem animal. That was my first, but it's been recently that I've really connected with all sorts of guides, probably because of the work I've been doing with you. That's been really helpful. Hey, okay, so I know that we are actually, I've been calling it like meditating with sacred geometry. So when somebody asks me what this harmonics thing is, I'll say, well, it's hard to explain, but we meditate with sacred geometry. Well, so meditation, I think for most people, is the quieting of the mind, absence of any thought.
Right.
But my experience with meditation and what we do with the sacred geometry is not, it's almost like creating a space that all kinds of things can happen within. And so would you say that's like the definition of a journey rather than a meditation, or how would you describe those two things?
I would say that that is the definition of a harmonic journey. There are a lot of other types of journey processes. I think that journey is just the word that seems to fit best, that perhaps there isn't quite a language that expresses what is happening. But yes, I do believe that within the context of these particular journeys, we are creating a harmonic frequency within a contained space that allows us to access information related to that frequency. So it's very specific in terms of what can show up. Sometimes they are simply transmissions, because a person may, for example, be in a course, but the geometry might not be pertinent to them at that particular time in their life. And so what happens in that case is sometimes people don't really have an experience that they're super aware of, and they feel like maybe they're resting in that space, or they're receiving a clearing or a healing. A lot of times with this type of journey, you're going into a frequency and your conscious mind will unpack that when it is in right alignment with the human life in a linear time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so in a few minutes, we're actually going to go into one of these journeys with the hexahedron.
Yes.
So and that's like the cube. But to talk about some of the other sacred geometries that you've worked with, because only in this sacred geometry class have we worked with the Platonic solids. And before that, we were working with different ones. So what, like in the integration of higher self, what are some of the symbols that we were working with, or that you work with?
So in integration, I receive information from the guides about essentially combined geometries. So combining different basic geometries or Platonic solids in order to achieve a very specific type of frequency. So integration combines in order to allow for energetics of specificity that are more about accessing soul signature, accessing that pre-incarnation plan, understanding how to essentially hold the space of your spiritual awakening or remembrance in linear time. So there are many combined geometries that call in the energetics of birth portals, of soul signature, of there's one. Integration starts off with a combination of a pyramid and an infinity symbol, and that is about remembering that we have an infinite access to this higher energy. And so that's where we kick off. So combined energetics of geometries can bring some specificity and help us go into really specific information. And then the Platonic solids are really, in many ways, containers that reflect specific energetics. So for example, today we're going to work with the hexahedron or the cube, and that transmits the consciousness of elemental earth. And so it's a little bit different than a combined geometry, which is helping you locate your soul signature and unpack that roadmap.
Okay, nice. Okay, so in class, we talk about being architects of the future. Everyone on this call is an architect of their future for sure. And the future for many people for sure, because we're always doing collective work. So will you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, the class group that you have found yourself with is actually quite specific, to be frank. And everyone who is here as sort of a, the guides actually said most of the people who would be here listening to this are starseed light workers, starseed empaths, and there are in sort of the higher consciousness realms different types of councils. And within that framework, your soul may serve for specific missions, I guess. And the architects are those who actually have an intention to come into a timeline to help create a pivot. So the particular group that you are with, the guides call them architects of timeline pivots. We as individuals, of course, are here during an incredible timeline pivot, so it is likely that many serve on similar councils. They may not necessarily be that precise, I guess. They may have different missions. A lot of people are here to create new social structure, and that is a little bit different than creating the baseline architecture. So it's very layered. Although we are all architects of our own design, we've created that pre-incarnation plan. We have a roadmap that we are here to fulfill. Most of us are here to be gifters. There are a few souls who are here really in a place of learning and resolution, according to the OI guides. But many are here as gifters, and so we're co-creating. We are always co-creating. So there's our path, there's the collective path, and we are always making contributions to that. I have a set of guides that call themselves the Trinity, and they represent that original triad, the pillars of essentially divine masculine, divine feminine, and balance, or the divine child. And they like to say that that the collective is like a beehive where everybody has a specific role to play. And so we all have these beautiful divine sparks when activated that contribute to the betterment of our collective. So we have this great opportunity. And so there's an architectural aspect of that, being a co-creator, remembering the truth of what you came here to do so that you can contribute at your highest level.
Okay, so as a channel, it seems like Metatron comes in to work with us a lot because of sacred geometry. So who is Metatron and how is he connected to the sacred geometry piece? And would he be willing to share with this community information or suggestions or something about how we can navigate this challenging, changing world?
So Metatron is an archangel. He is one of two who are said to have walked the earth. And so they combine the ascended master energetic with that angelic energy. And so they can serve as great bridges. So that this is Metatron, and then SanAgustin, who has also come into some of our classes. They serve as bridges because they hold those two different realm frequencies. And Metatron specifically holds the records. He's said to hold the records of the multiverse. And he works with sacred geometry almost as a precise surgeon. So one of the things that I see him do a lot is coming in and working with light workers and starseed beings to help them anchor in essentially a physical rewiring in order to hold higher energetics as their spiritual process evolves.
Okay, and does he have any messages for us, or is he willing to come in and share?
So let me just invite him and see if he is wanting to sit inside of me. So as a channel, sometimes I do relay channeling where they sit and tell me what they want me to say, and sometimes they actually sit and take over. So I just like to give them time to see which path they want to choose. Metatron is staying outside of my body in this moment. And what is he wanting to say? So the message he is wanting me to share on his behalf is that we are almost required at this juncture. You have free will, of course, you can choose not to, but he says that those who are attracted to this type of messaging have a calling within them or a knowing within them that requires them to actually access their roadmaps, their truth, so that they can feel joy despite the hardship in order to navigate a changing time. He wants us to understand that the danger is behind us, that what is happening now is end chapter, where all that is wanting to be known as an opportunity is being revealed. So what has lived in obscurity or in sort of collective denial is rising up in order that those who have come in to sort of herald this timeline pivot, to be those who are working on the new social structures, to be those who are retiring old institutions, that they may come into their higher knowing. He wants you to know that tools are accessible to you. You simply need to ask, that it need not be hard or take long to connect in or commune with that higher truth, that it simply is about intention and finding a pathway that allows you to be comfortable surrendering to the communion. He is also suggesting that you look to see where your beliefs are contrary to your true values, because those values are important to herald, and the beliefs that do not align must be changed because they serve as obstacles. He says that allowing yourselves to be armed with sacred objects can be helpful. So when he's talking about sacred objects, he is essentially wanting us to understand that geometries, in addition to being containers or tools, emit a frequency. So they themselves are transmitters that can help elevate you into your higher knowing, that can help you anchor. So he wants me to encourage those of you who are having a hard time as empaths or star seeds navigating the collective unrest, the emotion, or those who are here with agreements to help transmute that energy. He wants you to consider having something that actually is in a cube shape, because cubes can help you set boundaries. So if having a cube, so I actually, my guides, probably Metatron specifically, had me get a set of cubes to actually place at my desk. And so, yes, and they transmit this beautiful energy that helps to support boundaries, that helps to support holding a protective space. So using sacred geometry, sometimes as decor, even can allow for them to be useful and helpful aids. So in addition to journeying or meditating with geometry, there are so many different practical uses, and he's wanting you all to understand the power of these transmissions, that it doesn't have to be always a focused intention. It can be, I know the truth of what this transmits, I need it, and I will bring it into my space and allow it to emanate with a frequency that supports me.
Wow, thank you, Metatron. That was awesome. And thank you, Reese, for that.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Welcome.
Yeah, that was
hanging around, so we'll see if he pops other stuff in.
okay, good. So now what I'd love to do is have you tell us about like how we use the hexahedron, the cube, in this journeying process, and then take us through. It's like a 15-minute process of taking like a meditation. So make sure you guys kind of settle in, and after talking about, just take us through, and then after that, I have a few more questions, and then we'll take questions and answers. Let's do question and answers.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So before I go into the details of the hexahedron, I just want to talk about the journey process. So guided harmonic journeys are pathways to your divine remembrance, and they help you to commune with that higher consciousness. It's important to know that your intention sets the guiding frequency. And for the purpose of these harmonic journeys, we also want you to know that there's no right way to do it. You may have visions or feelings, knowings, you may sense things. Some people close their eyes, some people keep them open, some people find it comforting to journal or doodle. Essentially, these are transmissions that activate your own remembrance. So as I mentioned earlier, as an aspect of source, you have, in your own soul memory and your DNA structure, actually access to all that is. So just allow yourself to trust whatever happens as the thing that was supposed to happen. I've had people fall asleep during journeys as well, and that's totally fine. So just know what unpacks itself is what is needed for your current timeline in terms of your conscious awareness, and you are still receiving the transmission even if you don't get beautiful visuals. I think a lot of people in these types of processes want the visuals. I like the visuals myself because it feels more informative, and that's really about how our minds work. But if we allow ourselves to connect in with the energy from all of our chakras, all of our energy centers, we can actually just surrender to what happens. Also, if you are feeling in the journey that you need to have more activation, you can always spin geometries, and spinning will give an accelerated vibration. So the hexahedron transmits the consciousness of elemental earth. This is a great geometry to use when you are seeking stability, when you are looking to perfect something, yet wanting to stay away from the judgment of the perfectionist. It is wonderful for allowing yourself to connect in with authentic and true perspective. The chakra association for this particular platonic solid is the root chakra, which sits at your pelvic floor. And in day-to-day life, you can use it for setting up strong energetic boundaries. It is helpful for calming chaotic environments, for using when you are feeling out of control or you feel like you have excessive energy. You can also use it if you are looking to build foundations as sort of an exploratory tool. So exploring physical boundaries, exploring what foundations are needed for a project, identifying what containers are needed for work or for family energetics. It also is great for expanding creative energy. And can be used as a healing container. So if you are a healer, you can place this geometry around or within the dantians or the chakras of a client who is working through issues related to anxiety, compulsion, or other types of frenetic or excess energy. Becky, do you have any questions about the hexahedron? That's sort of the base of what the guides have offered up.
No, but I remember when I was doing this one the first time, my body was resistant to it. I just didn't want to do this because I think I live in the ethers and not on the earth. So it was good for me to, I remember feeling resistant at first, and then I got in and it was really successful. So like you said, it all works, and just be open to the exploration of it.
Right. And I think that this is actually why the guides chose this geometry, because so many light workers and starseeds are really out of their body a lot and oftentimes struggle with the human experience and being in the element of earth. And so it's a great container for allowing yourself to access the true thing of what you came here to do, and to remember the beauty of actually being in a human vessel and being in this timeline that, while it feels chaotic, has so much opportunity and so much promise. And so allowing ourselves to work with a geometry that helps us see the great gift of being on the earth, even though we are so much out of body a lot, can help us through this very challenging timeline. You know, our world is changing, and we are here to offer so many great gifts, whether those are teachings or healings or creations. You know, people are developing awesome products right now, and there's so much in development, and there's going to be new social structure. So we actually have to be here. You know, it's not just about this beautiful connection with other and higher consciousness. It's about anchoring that truth in and then actualizing change here in the physical world, while also allowing ourselves to be joyful while doing it, to have appreciation and gratitude. And so this is just a beautiful, beautiful, albeit very simple structure. But it invites in such solidity for those of us who are not always comfortable being in the physical.
Excellent.
Are we ready to take a journey with the hexahedron?
Yes, I'm so excited. And I'm so excited. I'm so glad again that you guys are all here to join us for this. I'm so glad. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. So we are just going to ask you to relax and get ready. And just get in a comfortable position. Visualize or think of white light. Allow your breath to connect you to source through a stream of connective white light. Allowing source to clear your energy field with this white light. White light brings in the frequency of purification. And take a few deep breaths, bringing this light into your root chakra on the inhalation, so that's your pelvic floor, and releasing it up your spine and out your crown on the exhalation. So just a few deep breaths, bringing that light into your root, releasing it up your crown. Now visualize or think of a liquid gold light streaming down from source, cascading through your crown, filling every cell of your body, strengthening your physical and etheric bodies. And just breathe here with this gold light for a few breaths. Next, we are going to seal in clarity with diamond colored light. Allow source to stream this light through the whole of your physical and energetic bodies. Inhale deeply and exhale fully. Now ask Source to send a brilliant light of whatever color you most need in this moment. And just allow yourself to receive it. Breathing it in, allowing these light codes to dance within your field. Now bring your awareness to Mother Earth and invite her to send up her grounding, centered, loving energy. And set the intention to connect with your highest self for information most needed related to the harmonic geometry of the cube or hexahedron. Or if you wish, you can set the intention to receive a healing related to the cube's frequency. Now visualize or imagine a hexahedron or cube in front of you. Allow yourself to view every side, to feel the texture of its energy. And imagine it getting bigger, big enough to serve as a vehicle for your entire being, large enough to hold your energy field, remembering that your field is much, much larger than your physical being. And go ahead and walk into the cube. Ask this sacred geometry to reveal its messages to you or to transport you. Ask how it nourishes you and how it can best support you. Receive all the supportive energy that surrounds you, allowing yourself to be nurtured along the journey. Take it all in, allowing your body to receive all that is being given. And just breathe here for a few breaths. And then allow your breathing to fall into a natural rhythm. Explore, discover, receive. The messages may be simple or complex. You may receive knowings or feelings. You may receive a cleansing, a healing, or a download of information. Trust that whatever is needed will show up. Your higher self will receive and guide you. Again, if you're desiring more movement, spin your cube. And we're just going to leave you in this connection for 11 minutes, and we will guide you on the return. And we're just going to have you begin wrapping up your journey. Prior to returning to your physicality, check your energy field for clarity, ensuring that you are not bringing anything with you that you do not wish to bring, using white light to purify your field. Take a moment to express gratitude for whatever came forward in your journey and for those that held you in this frequency. When you are ready, anchor into your body with deep grounding breaths, bringing your awareness back into your root or pelvic floor, allowing the geometry to dissipate. Invite in the frequency of love to be with you in your physicality, and just return and be present when ready. You can pull up Mother Earth energy if you feel you need more anchoring. So I received a few messages from some of the other guides that I work with while you guys were journeying. So I just wanted to share them. The Markai, these are the children of the North Star. They wanted me to encourage you to color or draw sacred geometries to facilitate receiving information that is strategic or actionable, or to anchor the frequency. And the Trinity suggests wearing geometry at the throat or the heart to assist in recalibration to pure state of knowing and oneness with a geometric frequency. They say that if you are striving to do this, that it is important to wear the geometry consistently and for long enough for whatever old patterns that keep you separated from that knowing to be released. They also encouraged gifting or exchanging transmissions of sacred geometry as a support for unity consciousness in relationships, in also for collective meetings. So any type of like work situation where maybe there is an energetic that would be a helpful boost, you can bring in an awareness of the geometry to the space that you meet in, even if that space is virtual. They say that it's really about inviting the frequency of the geometry in. Of course, if it's in person, like an actual object can be a helpful transmission.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, how does a person know what geometry to choose?
Metatron says that your higher self will always guide you, that you truly can just take a deep breath and ask your higher self if there is a geometry that would be useful for you. You don't have to have an understanding first intellectually, because you have a higher knowing, and that knowing will always guide you to what you are needing. So you just breathe, set the intention, and allow yourself to receive, just as simply as in the journey asking for a color to come. So what is the geometry that would be beneficial for me? And then you can do, there's a lot of great information on so many websites about sacred geometry.
Wasn't it, was Spirit Science Sacred Geometry? It's like an hour video with this little character. That's like the best one. And once you get connected up with that Spirit Science like YouTube channel, everything on there is valuable. So that was a place I loved. And funny thing is, I didn't watch that video. I really didn't have much, I probably knew about the golden mean. That's probably what I knew before. And it was only in the third class that somebody said, hey, have you seen the Spirit Science video about sacred geometry? And I hadn't. So it was really interesting to actually learn about it after I'd had so many classes. It was good. So I would recommend that to anybody. I'll in the comment box, I'm going to post this on YouTube, and I'm going to put it in the comment box, that link to that video. I was also, we were talking about the other day, we were talking about the flower of life, and almost everybody has seen that flower of life. It's the interlocking circles that makes a beautiful sort of, I don't know, it makes a circle of circles. And I thought about decorating with it, and so I looked online to see if I could get like a wall decal, so I could just put a big one on my wall. And there's so many things like that. They're just everywhere. There's wooden carvings, and there's wooden, that plasticky decal stuff. They're just everywhere.
Right. They carry the most beautiful transmissions of energy. So I think that so many people are finding them to be helpful aids in supporting us during this trying time in our world. So anchoring in these frequencies in whatever way, like it does not have to be hard. It doesn't have to be, a lengthy meditation or journey or even exploration. Having that request to your higher self, anchoring in a geometry, and then bringing it into your space, doing some research to find out, why your higher self wanted you to have that. But it can be very simple working with these geometries. And it really is about recalibrating your own harmonics, that field of energy that is your field. When we work with these, essentially my guides call them magnetic attractors, like when whatever is held in that energetic space is what attracts our life experience. And so if we are finding something that is in our field that is unwanted, allowing ourselves to call in energetic support through the geometries to, I think like the Trinity said, to create that pure state of knowing your own oneness with that frequency. So if we all come from source, we have the capacity to emanate that pure energy. And a lot of it is just about deconstructing beliefs, which they talked about earlier, addressing patterns. And I think that's why they're saying, if you're going to use a jewelry piece, wearing it consistently and long enough is all about releasing the old pattern and infusing your field with this energetic that brings you into true alignment with that foundational truth of the geometry, which in essence is our foundational truth, because we are aspects of source.
Fantastic. Hey, so I would like to give people a chance to share their experience in meditation and ask questions. Does it make sense that we have people share first and then ask questions later, or a combination of the two? What do you think? Maybe the
however it flows. Probably.
Okay. That sounds good. So if you are interested in sharing, unmute yourself and then let us, if you're okay with us being able to see you, join by turning on your camera. And I'd love to hear what you guys had, what your experience was, and if you have a question, please join us for that. And if a couple of people pop in at the same time, just stay there so that we know who's gonna, or who's interested in sharing and speaking and asking. While people are deciding to contribute, one of the things I'm always amazed at is when I do a meditation or a journey, I usually give myself an hour because it takes me that long to get in. And when we meet collectively like this, and you say, I'm gonna leave you in this place for 11 minutes, I panic and I think there's no way I can get anywhere in 11 minutes. But every single time I do. And so it's amazing as a collective how powerful it is to meditate or to journey together. And it just happens so much more quickly.
Collective energy is like an amplifier. It really helps to create this supportive boost. Like we're all going towards that same frequency. And so it's just a stronger connection. What I want to say that I think is really important that I think people forget about is that you don't have to, when you are on your own, be in that space on your own. So what you can do is call in the collective energy to support your journey. So the amplification can happen if you do that. We just aren't really, I think, often remembering that we can step out of linear time to go into these connections in a more collective way. So allow yourself to know that simply requesting that collective energy and taking yourself out of like, I'm alone in my room and I'm by myself. And so, invite the collective in to support you. You can always invite in non-physical guides to that space. You can invite in, all the people in a group that you work with. It might not even be a conscious knowing of the group. You could just request that, a council that you serve on related to whatever it is that you're looking at or exploring supports you in that journey. So you can bring in collective energy outside of the sort of linear time. And I think it's just something that we don't think about or we forget, or maybe we didn't know that we could do that, but we can.
Excellent. Yeah, I didn't really think about that. Okay, anybody, you guys, I would love to have you guys ask questions or share what you experienced in your journey.
Okay, I'll jump in.
Thank you.
I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously this was the first time, so I wasn't sure how it was going to go or how I was supposed to guide it. But as I was in the cube, suddenly a triangle came to me, and then it became a Merkaba. And I'm like, oh, am I supposed to be getting into my Merkaba now inside of the cube? So I kind of did that, but then it shifted to then me playing with the infinity. And I was working the energy, and then I did a little healing on myself. And then I was just there with the infinity and feeling the energy. So that was my experience. I'm just sharing it.
Thank you. I love it.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I think, as I said earlier, the harmonic integration class starts off with a pyramid with an infinity, and it's about accessing infinite energy. Like I think it's called the infinite accessible energy code. And so it allows you to really tap into that higher self place, your higher knowing. It invites in the integration with your higher self. And your higher self must have been like, well, here we are, let's do some healing work. So
I'll see if it had any benefit. But yeah, I completely forgotten that you said the pyramid. I mean, I locked onto that because I love the pyramid shape, and I love the number 3 and everything it represents, but it must have had a trigger as I went into the meditation.
It's likely that your higher self thought that was a better fit for you in terms of what you need today. You know, I think it's important to always trust that our higher self is going to bring in what is needed in the moment and what's most beneficial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, I would love to see some of your guys' faces. So if you want to pop in, I would love it. This is such a neat community. Thank you for being here. Oh, yay, May, how's it going?
Hi. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I mean, I would share, but I don't really know where I went. So I don't really have like a memory. Just was super, super relaxed. So that's pretty much all I could share. So thank you. It was lovely. I don't know where I went, but it was great. I didn't really want to come back.
Relaxed is good.
Yes, I'll take relaxation.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thomas, how about you?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Reese. Yeah, I was, connected in following Reese's example of, connecting with your higher self and seeing what, information, learning might be available at this time. Yeah, got some, I think it's mostly download, because it was a lot of like light flashes, but there were definite, definite beings there with me sort of guiding it through. So there was like a visualization of people giving me information, but the only way I could interpret that information was light. And then some, I think some stuff that was related to past life that was also shared that was like, this is in the same vein, like you've had this experience in a, in a physical sense as well. What I was most curious about, Reese, you had mentioned earlier about Metatron being effectively the keeper and the guardian of the records of basically everything. And so it's sort of a two-part. Is that the same thing as the Akashic record? And the follow-up to that is, do you have any recommendations or suggestions about how to approach Metatron to gain access to those records?
So yes, and you simply have to ask him. He often, he often will allow others to sort of administer the library, if you will. So another way is to go into the Akash and see who shows up for you. There's a really great or effective, for some people, Akashic Records prayer by a woman named Linda Howe that is easily found online. I also could probably send you a copy. I think that I have one somewhere. But it's a process that takes you into the records, and it works for a lot of people really well. I usually find that it's easier for me to just request that I go to the records. But I'm always met by this guy named Alan. So it's like, for me, it's not Metatron, it's like a librarian. That's how he presents himself to me. But you can ask Metatron, just make the request. He doesn't expect people to be fancy with him. He's just like, ask and I'll show up. But I do have a sense, for whatever reason, that you have a librarian similar to me.
Gotcha. Sounds like I'll have some work to do.
Yeah, I think that I have if you remind me kind of outside of this, I'm pretty sure that I have a class actually in intuitive development that's structured around going into the Akash and meeting your record keeper. So if you remind me, I can get that to you.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
I'll link it on to this this call also, that for the prayer. And this spirit science thing, I'll put that in the comments too, just so we have that access.
Thanks.
Yay. Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you so much, Reese.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Anybody else? We probably have time for one more person to share or have a question.
Hi, Becky. This is Cindy Dillon. How are you?
Good, how are you?
It's been so long since I've seen you. I was going through withdrawals.
Oh my gosh. Hey, now can you, do you want to have your video on or no?
I do not. I'm already in my pajamas, so I'm going to pass on that. But I wanted to say thank you, Reese. That was very well, very nicely done. And I really appreciated seeing how you process, how you do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Did you have a question or you just wanted?
No, I really just wanted to say hello and thank you for putting this together. And of course, I hadn't seen Becky in a while, so I wanted to say hello. So
Yes, this was so good. Well, if nobody else has any other questions, I want to just thank you so much, Reese. Hey, how would people get in touch? How would they know where to start if they wanted to start taking classes with you, or how do they get in touch with you, and how does that?
So they could start by visiting my website, oneilluminated.com, and there is a tab that lists all of the classes. Also, so welcome to use a contact form on there and reach out to me. A lot of times people will just ask me to kind of read their energy and make a recommendation. That seems to work really well for folks.
Wow. And now, do you do one-on-ones?
I do.
Okay. And so I've had several of these and they're unbelievable, unbelievably helpful. Because what I know is, I know your job and your purpose here is to connect people to their own truth.
Yes.
But for some reason, I come to you with all these questions, and you know, it helps so much to have you say, why are you asking this question? Oh my God, remember I asked you one time if I'm just here to be, like I'm just a beer, just to be and radiate love. And you go, why did you ask that question? Because I'm not at all, I'm a super doer. Of course I am. That was the silliest question. But it's so helpful because you just are, you're I don't know, it's like you do connect me with my truth, and I appreciate that. So a session with Reese involves her communicating with your guides and, you know, general guides, and it's just so incredibly helpful.
Yeah, so I usually first connect in with somebody's framework, so their roadmap, their energetic framework, and then I invite in your guidance team. So it's both you and how you have sort of designed yourself and the team. Sometimes the team's opinionated, so it's nice to be able to look at the original framework.
Well, now, do you have any last minute or last comments, or any being that has a last remark or one last thing to share?
Metatron is coming in. He's wanting to express his deep, deep gratitude for the fact that you were drawn and compelled to attend in order to begin or continue your remembrance of your divine alignment with the sacred geometry, with this foundational energy. He's wanting to encourage you to continue in whatever way calls to you, because what is coming are many, many invitations for you, each of us, to choose how we will contribute, how we will experience relationship, love, and joy as we go through this incredible timeline shift there's so much opportunity for us to move collectively towards unity consciousness. And the more clarity that you have around your own true nature and how comfortably you sit with the different foundational energies, this will give you a way to more readily know which invitations to accept and decline. So many of you are such high energy lovers and doers, nurturers, and therefore so many invitations will come. They will present themselves, and they're not all for you to say yes to. But we forget that because we desire so much to participate in creating a better world. And a lot of times we can be detoured by invitations that are not necessarily for us. He's wanting you to know that there is a divine design at a collective level, and that it is okay to decline those invitations that are not for you because they are for someone else. And the best way is to spend some time in your own strategic clarity of knowing your values, what you are most desirous of gifting, what ignites you, what pisses you off even, so that you can have that clarity and have that knowing rather than feeling the overwhelm of so many invitations and opportunities to serve. Many of you have had, in earlier chapters of this life even, places that you were active and contributing that have shifted, and perhaps you outgrow or you made your contribution, and that those places may try to call you and invite you. And so having this clarity for who you are today and who you are wanting to be in the future, knowing what chapter of your roadmap you're in, will really bring ease to the journey, because there is really quite a lot to do. But we are not here alone, we are here together. Many councils have incarnated together in order to achieve really specific missions. So trust those invitations to network and find your allies in the physical so you feel supported, but also trust that there are others who are intended to do work that isn't in your alignment, even if it's work that you know is important to do. So clarity, clarity, clarity about who you are and how you've come to serve. And remember that there is a joy element. If you are not joyful in your service, it is probably an invitation that you should decline or pivot away from. We are here to contribute, yes, but we are also here to enjoy our time, to have beautiful connections, to do work that brings heart happiness. And a lot of our guides in that higher consciousness space will pop in with this concern that we as empathic humans who feel so compelled will say yes to things that aren't for us and feel overwhelmed and therefore find ourselves in a place of burnout. So preserve your life force energy through strategy and clarity and knowing, and trust that you do know. Like, we have to move away from language and vibration and frequency that takes us out of alignment with ourselves. And a lot of times, because of earlier programming in our lives, we follow pathways that, you know, maybe somebody else thought we should do, or we just have a natural gift for. And so it's important to reassess and to be strategic about the steps we take in our lives. And that is what Metatron is wanting to close with, because again, such beautiful nurturing, caring people on this call. And we do get overwhelmed by the invitations. So allow yourselves to decline. It's okay. We don't have to do all of the things, but we do need to do the thing that is ours to do.
Thank you so much, Reese and Metatron. Thank you so, so much. Oh my gosh, this has been so great. Thank you for giving us this time. And thank you guys all for coming. It is such a great honor to have you here and to see you. And it just feels so good to have this family. We do need to stick together. We need each other right now. So I sure appreciate you all being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Becky, for arranging this, for creating an invitation that was a yes for me.
Thank you. I'm so glad. Oh, jeez. I know, and it was all complicated and funny, and it just turned out perfect.
Yes, yes, it did. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right.